Okay, one time I was very naughty. A little camera shy. We happened to meet and how he happened to be moved then to St. Louis. One time when he and a friend were making a trip, and this must have been about 1938, they were making a trip to Minnesota or something, and they stopped in the St. Louis office and went up and met some man named Mance Overman, who later turned out to be his boss, and they went to look around at the what did they call it, where they transport the gas through the pipelines, the pipeline department. And they went up to look at that and inquire about it and so on. And by the time he made his vacation trip, got back to Houston, Mance Overman had sent the word that he would like to have him come to St. Louis and work. So he did. And after he had been there a few months, I lived in a place called the Del Mar Club with my friend Edna Trahi, and Dad came there to live. And he asked a girl to introduce us. So she did, and he asked me out that same night, and from then on, it was history. And we were married in 1940 in St. Louis and moved in September 23rd and moved to New York to be in the head office in November. Story about Dad when we moved to Houston. In 1970, he was transferred from New York to Houston when they moved the head office. And he had worked in Houston, that's where he started working sometime, I suppose, in the early 30s. And he worked out surveying or something, outside work. And anyway, he told me about one morning when he had a check waiting at work and he had a nickel to get there on the bus. That's all the fare was at that time. So he had one nickel to get him there and pick up his check. That was all he had, was one nickel to get him to pick up his check, because he probably was staying in a room or something and having to eat, of course. So later, when we were transferred to Houston, and we were staying in a small hotel in the city, and he worked to Houston. And when he came home that evening, he said, "Well, this morning when I was walking to work with my business suit on, little did I think when I took that nickel ride to pick up my check that I would ever be working in the office in Houston at the head office and wearing a business suit." So he came to St. Louis, we met, and we went to New York, and we stayed at, I believe it was the Roosevelt Hotel in New York for 2 weeks while we found an apartment in Elmhurst, Long Island, brand new apartment. I was thrilled to death. Had a drop living room, 1 bedroom, and bought our own furniture, of course, new furniture, and paid $63 a month rent. We got there in November of 1940, and war was declared on December the 7th of 1941. During the war, of course, we were rationed sugar, gas. We used to save our gas all week long. Of course, Dad rode the subways. We didn't have to use the car during the week. And we would save the gas so that on Sunday we could drive either out to see Aunt Lethea and Uncle Fred, or take a little side trip ourselves to see something around New York that we hadn't seen. We didn't have any children for 6 years until 46 when Ellen was born. So in the meantime, Janice was just asking what did we do for entertainment. There were several couples from Shell that lived out in our area, and we would get together on Saturday night at one apartment or the other and have a little party. I don't remember if we played cards or what we did. No one really had any money for drinking, so we didn't drink. And we'd have refreshments, and I don't remember what we did, but it was lots of fun anyway. Most of the women, all of the friends that I had there at that time, that their husbands worked for Shell, we didn't work. So we would go during the week, we'd go take the subway into New York, take the Fifth Avenue bus and ride up and down Fifth Avenue. Or we would go to a ball game about once a week on Ladies' Day in Yankee Stadium. And occasionally we would meet at one of the houses for a little lunch, and that's when I learned to sew. Bernadine, somebody, taught me to sew. And I remember she taught me as you use each piece of pattern, fold it, put it back in the envelope. But I forgot that in years to come. And we lived there in the apartment until 1949, I believe. And then we built the house in Garden City, built first floor, and later Dad, he did most of the work, finished the second floor after the girls were born. And we lived there until 1970 when we moved to Houston. I was raised on the farm in Jersey County. Of course, my dad was a farmer, had 3 older sisters and 3 older brothers. And I was the baby. I didn't walk until I was 18 months old. And we were very close with my cousins across the way, who were Mary Louise and Hubie and Bud, and all their older brothers and sisters. And one thing I remember, Mary and Bud had to wash the dishes after dinner, and Helen and I had to wash our dishes after dinner. And they would run out in front of their house, we would run out in front of ours and wave, and then we would run in and wash the dishes, and the first one out won. That was a big thing. And a funny little story that we used to tell on Hubie was one day we were, Mary and Bud and Helen and I, running up the dusty country road, and Hubie, who was 4 years younger than I, was running behind us saying, "Wait for me, wait for me." And then he'd say, "Oh, I stepped on a thorn, I hurt my foot, I hurt my..." So we'd all stop and go back. So then we got wise to him, and we stopped doing that. Finally, one time he started yelling, "Now I really did, now I really did." And so we were very close growing up, and both the houses stood until, I guess, after the farm was sold in I don't remember.
I think I was in college.
So it must have been in the 60s sometime. My dad died very suddenly of a heart attack, February the 4th, 1933. He was 63. I was 17. And those were in the days when they didn't have a funeral parlor in Jerseyville. And so the body was kept at home, and people sat up all night with the body and so forth. One of the things that we always laughed about, I thought I was a blonde when I was little, and it turned out that my sister Mary, mother of Lou, would wash my hair every week, and she would put peroxide in so that I would look blonde, and I really had very dark hair. And the other is a little story about Bud and I. And those were in the days of the Model T Fords, and they had side curtains on the sides so the people sitting in didn't see out very well on the sides. And France Allen, the oldest of the cousins, was going to Kane to buy some bread, and Helen and Mary Louise were allowed to go. So they were riding in the back seat. Bud and I wanted to go, and they wouldn't let us go. Somebody wouldn't let us. So when he started up the old Ford, Bud said, let's hop on the fender. So we sat on the fender, braced our feet against each other, and rode probably a mile. And we were having such a good time, we started to sing. And they looked out, and there we were on the running board. So, of course, Mary and Helen scared us to death by saying, we're going to tell on you, oh, you're going to get a whipping, you're going to get a whipping. So when we got home, I ran home as fast as I could, cried my eyes out, and my parents thought there was something terribly wrong until they found out, so they didn't say a word. To themselves, I'm sure they laughed. But the only thing that would embarrass me to death, every time we went someplace, they'd tell the story, and I would hate that. Janice wants me to tell some Christmas stories when I was very young. And I do remember we had one Christmas when Helen and I got a doll together. Of course, my parents didn't have very much money. We had to share a doll and a little set of doll dishes, but we thought it was wonderful. But one year, I got a new pair of galoshes, overshoes, for Christmas. And they feel very sad about this, but I was very happy with it. And I had a great Uncle Tom, who lived with us. And one Christmas, my family all went to the 5 o'clock Mass, and he stayed at home to take care of me. And they told him, don't show her a little doll that I got for Christmas until we get home. But he couldn't wait, and he carried me down the steps. I assume I was sleeping upstairs, and showed me the doll before they got home, and they thought that was very funny. And another story was that I always think my mother was fooled. I was 13, and I wanted a ukulele for Christmas so bad. And so Christmas morning, we were going to 5 o'clock Mass. So I ran in the living room to see if the ukulele was there. No ukulele. So we went to Mass, and all through Mass I sat there a little angry and disappointed because I didn't get my ukulele. Then we get home, and my mother reaches behind the old upright piano and pulls out the ukulele. And I thought, I said, Mom, why did you do that? She said, because I thought you wouldn't pay any attention to church and you'd be thinking about the ukulele. And later I told her I was. I fooled you because you thought I'd be so pious, and instead I was angry because I didn't get the ukulele. The favorite thing that I did get after I reached 8 or 9 years old that I loved was a storybook for Christmas every year.
What storybooks did you get? Do you remember?
Oh, it had Cinderella and all those old fairy tales, and I would read those over and over. I guess that's where I got my love of reading. Well, I had more than one teacher, but the one I probably remember was, I think she was my 5th grade teacher, Marie Roach, who I think is still living today in 2001. She was a neighbor, but also my teacher. And I always thought it was funny because she would pronounce prunes, instead of prunes. But she was a great teacher, and even today when I see her, she always reminds me that I loved ancient history, and I don't remember that at all. unless I like the story of Helen of Troy or some of those little stories.
Tell the sandwich story.
Okay, one time I was very naughty. My mother always made us sandwiches to take to school, and Helen and Mary Louise were both in school at that time with me. I guess I was about first grade. And my mother always cut them in diagonal shapes. So I guess I forgot mine. Anyway, I got to school, it was lunchtime, and I didn't have my lunch. And a nice neighbor offered, "Oh, Pauline, don't," and I was crying. She offered me hers, said, "Oh, Pauline, don't cry, I'll give you half my sandwich." And I said, "No, I don't like the way yours is cut," and embarrassed my poor sister to death.
Now, didn't you have your sister Mary for a teacher, too, for a while? I thought you said you had Mary for a teacher.
She was a school teacher, but I don't know that I ever had her.
I thought you said you used to have.
Unless she was substituting.
Maybe so. And your mom was a teacher, too, right?
Yes. She taught before she was married.